Hi there, my name is Dr. William Bird and this is Chat with the GP, and today is about the gut biome. Now they're the trillions of bacteria that live in our gut. Now you can't have gone on any social media or listened to the radio perhaps or read something somewhere that has told us about the gut biome and how important it is to keep it kind of stoked up, making sure those trillions of bacteria are healthy. So we're going to go through and understand what is actually going on with the gut biome, how important it is. So let's have a look and just see what we'll cover. First of all, can we be too clean? And that is basically the hygiene hypothesis, where if we sterilize everything, we bleach everything, then the bacteria can't get into our gut, and therefore we are starting to get problems with autoimmune conditions. Psychiatric diseases, are they now caused or possibly enhanced by a poor gut biome? The demise of our gut biome, we've heard today in newspapers about the fact that bowel cancer is on the rise in young people in particular, and the poor gut biome is thought to be the cause of that. How do we improve it and what actions do we take? So let's just go through and start to understand the foundation of where it came through. And it was back in 1989 where Professor David Strachan, and he was from London, and he proposed that infections during childhood may protect the development of allergic diseases. And this was called the hygiene hypothesis. And the evidence he showed was really quite compelling. Depending on the birth order, your risk of getting hay fever and actually asthma and eczema increased if you were firstborn, and got less and less likely if you were second, third, fourth, or even fifth born. You can see here there's this sharp gradient going down from 1 being the eldest all the way through to 5+ being the youngest out of 5. And it's because your older siblings are bringing in lots of bugs from home and you're getting all those infections and colds, etc. That's training up the immune system, like an army has to be trained up in order to fight an enemy. And if there's no discipline and there's no infections, then the immune system can go a little bit AWOL and start to cause problems with your own body. You can also see that there's a dark bar, a smaller one. That's what happened in the 1970s, the percentage of people who had hay fever. So you can see that between the 1970s and the early 2000s, that there was a big jump of people, of children getting problems with hay fever, and that is obviously thought to be due to the fact that we've got a much more clean environment now, less infections, people keeping away from other children, and we've got a problem which is now our immune system being a little bit AWOL. So what about the bugs? Where do they come from? Well, there seem to be 3 things, and they've actually been called old friends. Professor Rook, who also from London, gave them that name because these are bugs which we in generally don't like because they're infections, but actually they help our body. We've got our own ones which would come in through from the first day you're born. You're getting them from the vagina of the mum, and then breastfeeding can do that as well, and then obviously picking up bits of dirt and things as you go through. The old infections, which are infections which were there from the past, which we kind of continue on, and things like H. pylori and others, and then things we can pick up from the soil, which as children particularly, they eat things, put things in their mouth, and that seems to be an essential part of getting the bugs into our body to make sure our gut is actually well tuned in. So here's a techie bit, okay, so just bear with me as we talk it through this. So the old friends of these bacteria, they help an immature immune cell from becoming a regulatory immune cell, which means that they regulate and suppress the immune system. They stop it from going crazy and attacking our own body. And the more you have of these old friends, the more your immune system will be calmed down. So you get less chronic inflammation, which is one of the causes of almost every single disease, from psychiatric diseases all the way through to diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, bowel diseases, etc. So in other words, we need these old friends in order to be able to work our bodies and make sure that they're going to do what they need. We can't do it on our own. So when we look here, we can see that if you've got old friends in the green there, lots of them, then you get regulatory T cells and actually reduce inflammation, no diseases, or very few. If you've got very few old friends in an urban environment, then you get this low ratio. In other words, we get a lot of cells who are not regulated, who are going a bit hyper, and that causes chronic inflammation, which causes depression, multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, Crohn's disease, anxiety, and allergies. So if we then, our bugs start to get worse and we start to find that the bacteria are not there, then what we'll find is we get what's called a leaky gut. In other words, you need the bacteria to make sure that the holes in the gut are very, very small. And if they're very small, it means only food nutrition goes through into the bloodstream. If they get a bit wider, you start to get little bits of bacteria through. And those little bits of bacteria are the things that cause more chronic inflammation. So we need that gut biome to seal our gut. But there's also more. There's also a relationship between the gut and the brain, and that can be through hormones, through the vagus nerve, through these little bacteria parts and cytokines, and they all affect the brain. And the bowel and the brain seem to work very closely together, and it causes the increased anxiety and depression. So let's then have a look and see how things develop when you've got depression. Your gut biome talks to the brain, as we've just seen, and it does it through certain areas. So let's say you've got a very poor gut biome, that means your immune system will be a little bit more inflammatory. That causes inflammation in the brain, that causes depression. It can cause problems with your fight and flight, your adrenaline, etc. So you can start getting cortisol and adrenaline, etc. And that can start speaking to your brain, and that can cause depression in the wrong situations. And then you've got nerves. The vagus nerve goes straight from the gut biome to the brain, and that again can impact on depression. So you're speaking in one unit, the gut-brain axis. And actually, there is a bit of brain in the gut, and that's the nerves that wrap around the, what's called the mesenteric nerves, and they wrap around the bowel. So they're sensing all the time. So what happens? Well, what seems to be happening in modern life is that you've got ultra-processed food, which your guts don't like, the bacteria hate it. You've got sprays of disinfectant, which stop all the bacteria you can pick up going into your mouth and going into the gut. You've got formula-fed and artificial-fed babies. Now, that's not a disaster, but it certainly means that you don't quite get the full value of the bacteria coming in. And you've got antibiotics as well. Antibiotics can actually wipe out a lot of gut bacteria, particularly in childhood and particularly under one. So we're creating an environment not very healthy for the gut bacteria. To get healthy gut bacteria, we need to make sure that there's lots of different types. So it's not a particular one type. You can go to Boots or you can go to other chemists and you can find one medication or probiotic that might just have one or two. We want to have hundreds and hundreds of different types. You want it to be like a forest of loads of different types of plants and trees and even animals, etc. Because don't forget, the biome is not just bacteria, it's fungal parts and viruses and all sorts of things that are mixed in. So we want as much variety as possible. And if you look at the kind of food on the left, that's what we should be eating. And that's similar to the sort of forest where you've got all lots of different types. You don't want to just have mono foods. You want to have as much rainbow food as possible. So here we are, there are 30 plants, and each plant has got about 1,000 species of different types of bacteria on it. That's 30,000 species of different bacteria going in if you have that variety like this. What can we do about it? Well, it's fairly simple. Raw vegetables, we want plenty of those because they've got bacteria not just on the outside but embedded inside them as well. Physical activity seems to really enhance the bacteria and the gut biome in itself. Oil-rich fish as well, the sardines and other tinned fish can have a huge impact on the gut biome, really enjoys that. And the fermented food, all of those sauerkraut and other things have got lots of bacteria in them which go directly in and help to also feed the gut bacteria inside the body. Vegetables like cauliflowers and broccoli, and sprouts, they all again have more bacteria inside them as well as on the outside. So even washing and cooking doesn't matter too much because you will take them from inside. Allowing a breathing space in your gut so that you don't have to eat so quickly and frequently, that you allow at least 12 hours and possibly 16 hours of a fast to allow the gut to calm itself down and to start to eat up any kind of unnecessary things inside the bowel to keep it clean and hygienic and all the housekeeping. So giving out fast really helps. Nature and animals will give you a constant supply of new bacteria, which are good bacteria, and we need those. And fruit as well, with the fibre, lots of fibre needed, and fruit's one of the best ways of getting fibre in a nice way. And then get rid of that processed food, get rid of that sugar particularly. The gut hates sugar. The bacteria get overwhelmed, and you often can get things like thrush, candida coming in instead of the bacteria. So there we go. There's your list of all the things you have to do. I hope that was useful for you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much indeed.